He wasn't just a star, he was the very definition of cool. With that smooth velvet voice, the effortless smile, and a presence that could light up any room, Dean Martin became a legend unlike any other. Behind the charm and the laughter, however, was a man far more complex than the world ever knew. He was the beloved comic, the iconic crooner, and the entertainer who left audiences spellbound, but his story was never as simple as the spotlight made it seem. Behind the dazzling smile and the endless glasses of whiskey, Dean Martin carried a secret that only those closest to him ever truly understood. While the world saw him as Hollywood's eternal cool, the smooth crooner with a tumbler always in hand, the truth was far more complicated. Behind closed doors, that glass was often filled with nothing more than apple cider, a carefully guarded illusion to keep the legend alive. Yet beneath the glamour, pain ran deep. Years of silence have finally been broken, as Dean Martin's own children stepped forward to reveal shocking truths about the man they called Dad. Their confessions uncover not just the entertainer, but the private struggles that haunted him all his life. And it all traces back to his roots, to a childhood in Steubenville, Ohio, shaped by the traditions, and the hardships, of his Italian immigrant family. Dean Martin wasn't always the polished legend the world adored. Born Dino Crocetti on June 7, 1917, to Italian immigrant parents, his life began humbly in Steubenville, Ohio. His father, a hard-working barber, and his mother, a devoted homemaker and seamstress, raised him in a home where Italian was the only language spoken. This left young Dino struggling when he entered school, learning English only at the age of 5. The heavy accent he carried made him an easy target for teasing and ridicule, setting him apart from his classmates. Life pushed him to grow up fast. He dropped out of high school and took on backbreaking jobs, first in a steel mill and later as a gas station attendant, just to get by. But survival also led him into the brutal world of prizefighting. At just 15, fighting under the name Kid Crochet, he stepped into the ring without even the money to buy proper hand tape. Each match left its mark: broken knuckles, a scarred lip, and a nose smashed and straightened more than once. Every bruise, every scar was a testament to the grit that would one day shape the legend the world knew as Dean Martin. With a playful grin, he proudly declared that out of his 12 battles, he had triumphed in 11. Given this background, how did Dean achieve the level of fame and fan admiration he enjoys today? We'll have to explore that. Dean Martin and Sonny King, a broke individual also just beginning his journey in show business, shared a brief period living together in New York City before fame came calling. Allegedly, the pair enticed onlookers into their apartment to witness a bare-knuckle fight that concluded with one of them knocked out. In an amateur boxing match, Martin knocked out King in the first round. Dean's life also included various illegal ventures, such as selling lottery tickets, working as a bookie, smuggling alcohol across state lines during Prohibition, and gambling with money and cards at local casinos. Fortunately, someone recognized Dean's talent, and he soon found himself performing in clubs nationwide. Martin's show business journey began at the age of 17, performing in bars close to his hometown in Ohio. While he was performing with the Ernie MC, a band led by Sammy Watkins from Cleveland noticed him and invited him to be the lead singer for the group. After adopting the name Dean Martin in 1939, he started touring with Watkins. In September 1943, Martin secured an exclusive contract with MCA to perform at the Rio Bomer Room in New York. A 15-minute radio show titled Songs by Dean Martin was broadcast live from New York City. In 1994, his 4 singles released by Diamond Records in 1946 were the outcome of a recording contract he had secured. It was in Atlantic City, New Jersey, that fate introduced Dean Martin to the man who would change his life forever, Jerry Lewis. Their meeting in 1946 sparked a partnership unlike anything audiences had ever seen. On stage, Jerry became the wild, unpredictable clown, while Dean played the smooth, unshakable straight man. Together, their chemistry was electric, their timing flawless, and the result was comedy magic. The pair quickly rose to fame, first captivating radio audiences with NBC's Daily Show from My Friend Irma, then conquering television with their unforgettable appearances on the Colgate Comedy Hour. Hollywood soon came calling, and between My Friend Irma and Hollywood or Bust, Martin and Lewis headlined 16 films, each one cementing their place as one of the most beloved duos in entertainment history. Their popularity even extended to the printed page. DC Comics launched The Adventures of Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis in 1952, a comic series that ran for 40 issues. When the partnership eventually ended, the title was renamed The Adventures of Jerry Lewis, but the golden era of Martin and Lewis had already left its mark. What made them truly extraordinary wasn't just their talent, but the bond they shared behind the curtain. That offstage friendship fueled the on-screen brilliance, creating a dynamic duo that redefined comedy for an entire generation. According to Jerry Lewis, it's difficult to characterize the revolutionary comedy partnership between Martin and Lewis. Dean Martin had a wide range of admirers, including Italians, whom Jerry was able to win over. The secret to their popularity, according to Lewis, was that it didn't matter who was performing on stage, even if Dean was singing Martin, Lewis and Martin remained front and center. This was true for female viewers, Jewish audiences, and young people. And Lewis would still be held accountable if Jerry lost his mind. Their collaboration garnered them a lot of admirers at the Copacabana in New York, where Martin and Lewis performed for the final time on July 24, 1956, 10 years after they chose to split up. According to Neil Daniels, a biographical writer, the famed comedy duo's fans perceived them as nearly married due to artistic disagreements. Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis were stunned by the suddenness of the split, which in many respects resembled a divorce. Were the most paid stars in Hollywood when they broke up. Following a turbulent breakup, the two remained silent for 20 years. Many people have theorized about what would have prompted Martin and Lewis to part up so quickly, but there were actually a number of variables at play. The most frequently mentioned difference between the two comedians' opinions on work ethic is that Dean works really hard, but many believe that Jerry Lewis is overly committed to his career and has an insatiable thirst for performing jobs in TV series, films, and live performances. Being a scratch golfer in the past, Dean understood the need of scheduling time for both his game and his family. He was also tired of seeing only romantic prospects, as the audience viewed Jerry Lewis as the star of the program while some saw Dean only as a supporting role, which was likely confirmed when, in 1954, Look magazine asked Martin and Lewis to grace its cover before the movie's premiere. Martin was disappointed when they were taken off the cover because their disputes had gotten more heated. Their ability to collaborate eventually dwindled when Martin became enraged. He once yelled at Lewis and called him a $. Lewis would later express sorrow for the result, and the fact that he and his colleague had not spoken for 20 years was a continual cause of. It was generally assumed that Martin would fail as a solo artist, but after splitting with Lewis, his career took off, and the main reason why Dean's solo career succeeded was because it was his solo debut. Dean achieved gold status thanks to his popular songs including, That's a M.O., Memories Are Made of This, and Everyone Loves Somebody. He also made his acting debut in the WUB2 drama The Young Lions, co-starring Marlon Brando and Montgomery Clift. Published Valari that year, which was also a bestseller. He made his cinematic debut in the 1958 movie Sun Came Running, co-starring Frank Sinatra. Dean also received praise for his roles in Rio Bravo Airport, Toys in the Attic, and Bells Are Ringing. In addition to co-starring with Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. in the heist movie Ocean's 11, he also starred in the musical comedies Robin and the Seven Hoods and Sergeants 3 and 2. Additionally, Rat Pack includes several well-known espionage parodies starring Martin, including The Silencers and Murderers Row. The Pop Cuner era ended with the emergence of rock, although The Ambushers and The Wrecking Crew ran from 1966 to 1968 as a single to feature. Martin's 10,000 Bedrooms failed at the box office, reaching number 2 in the UK and 15 in the US. Despite receiving a small portion of his previous income, Martin turned down a role in the 1948 military film The Young Lions, which starred Marlon Brando through the Mon Clift talent agency MCA. He would have preferred a somber role than a slapstick farce. Believed that Dean would turn into a triple threat with this role, which would allow them to capitalize on his performance in nightclubs, music, and movies rather than Tony Randall, who was first cast in the role but was paid to leave it. Intriguingly, Martin practiced his singing by imitating the moves of the Mills brothers, Harry's Perry Como and Bing Crosby. Eventually, he developed his own unique sound and competed in duets with Sinatra and Crosby, despite the fact that he, like Sinatra, was illiterate. The movie marked the beginning of Martin's comeback. Recorded 600 songs and more than 100 albums. In 1964, the Beatles' hit song, Everybody Loves Someone, overtook A Hard Day Night as the #1 song in the United States. Later that year, another song called The Picture of Martin as a Dapper Las Vegas Showman is consistently fixated on Ain't That a Kick in the Head, which Martin sung in Ocean's 11, a song that wasn't successful when it was released. The Door Is Still Open to My Heart reached number 6 on his final studio album, The Nashville Sessions, which came out in 2016. Published, but because of its resurgence in popular culture and the media, it has since been his most played single in the past 20 years. For 30 years, Dean was one of the most adored performers in Las Vegas, singing and regarded as one of the most polished. In addition to her job as a singer in Las Vegas and on other TV shows, Martin's daughter Gail co-hosted a show on NBC's Summer Replacement Block, which included Richie Martin, his youngest son, and Deanna Martin, his daughter, as comedians due to his 10-year run-ins with Lewis. Performed until his passing in August 2016, his eldest son Craig produced Martin's television show, and his daughter Claudia starred in films including For Those Who Think Young. Despite the prevailing belief that Martin was promiscuous, he actually prioritized. Martin was there every night for dinner with Sinatra and Shirley Lawn, and some people came racing with Judy Holliday and bells are ringing John Wayne in Rio Bravo toys in the attic airport cannonball, according to his second wife Jean, who sought for divorce from him. Is it true that Lewis and Martin dreamed up the tale of Run and Cannonball Run Part 2? Martin had a successful acting career that spanned 51 films. Fortunately, the Jerry Lewis Memorial Drive Labor Day ton of Frank Sinatra brought the story to a happy conclusion. Sinatra, who was well known for her extensive commitment, had arranged a heartwarming surprise by introducing Dean Martin to Lewis in a private situation. He said, "I have a friend who adores the work you do annually." An amazing scene developed as the erstwhile pals embraced and conversed. One another for the first time since their 1956 breakup, Martin and Lewis spoke daily until they rejoined in 1976. Deana Martin, Dean Martin's daughter, has provided more details regarding the friendship after their. In an effort to preserve Dean's reputation, Deana has recently participated in several interviews, saying that maintaining contact was crucial to both of them. According to Fox News, Deana Martin believed Jerry would have liked to have been present after that, but her father was. Jerry was already playing golf in his free time, and it was obvious that she loved her father. She believed that the Dean Martin Show, which aired for 264 episodes every week on NBC from 1965 to the present, was a comic variety show that Martin hosted his triumph for Best Actor in a television series musical or. His character, the carefree party animal, was used by the show during his roasts, and Martin's slurred but quick remarks about other celebrities played on his image as the half-drunk crooner, earning him 16 more nominations and a Golden Globe. In an interview for the 196.3 British TV documentary Wine Women in Song, he claimed to have taped attempts towards women that would get anyone slapped, sometimes in only a single sentence. The TV show was very successful, and the informal nature of the allowed Martin and his weekly guests to show off their improvisational skills and quick humor. As a result, Martin and the NBC censors got into a fight because the censors wanted to examine the content more carefully. Later, he caused problems for NBC by casually using profanity. The show was named to the top 10 with a handshake deal between Martin and his buddy Greg Garrison, a pioneering TV producer from the 1950s, who offered Garrison half of the show as a gift of appreciation for the Italian phrases that repeatedly annoyed Italian speakers. Martin resumed his television career with the Dean Martin Comedy Hour, which lasted from 1953 until 1974. An iconic aspect of Martin's TV act was his recognition of all his hard work, however NBC Universal has contested the legitimacy of such ownership through a lawsuit. I feel awful for people who don't drink because one of Martin's renownedly funny drinking-related jokes is a humorous depiction of life as an alcoholic lush, which many spectators were unaware was an act. For them, the highlight of the day comes to an end at that precise time. When they open their eyes in the morning, do any other celebrities share the limelight with Dean? The Rat Pack wasn't always led by Frank Sinatra, despite what the general public believes. According to rumors, the first leading man was actor Humphrey Bogart, whose wife. The term was created by Lauren Ball when she started throwing late-night parties in the middle of the 1950s and started inviting well-known individuals like Sinatra, Judy Garland, David Meehan, and others. Although Bogart and the original Rat Pack passed away in 1957. The new Rat Pack began in Madison, Indiana, a small town in Indiana. Sinatra, newly minted movie star Dean Martin, and young actress Shirley Lawn were all filmed there in 1958 for the movie. Some members of the original Rat Pack came rushing like this new crew. Was a heavy drinker whose well-known pals included Humphrey Bogart, Peter Lawford, Frank Sinatra, and Joey Bishop. The Rat Pack rose to fame over time, and it became widely known that they frequently traveled to the Las Vegas Strip. What set Martin apart was his effortless ability to play the cool collected persona. Many would agree that the Rat Pack was much more than just a bunch of talented musicians. Many around him started to notice his obvious natural talent, and I had never seen a more dapper group of men. In one location, the group's already outstanding reputation was strengthened by sharing this outlook, yet, rumors and whispered discussions followed celebrities everywhere they went, just as they do today. The Rat Pack were the targets of numerous. The Rat Pack produced a significant body of work during their time together, including 20 films and innumerable songs, but Dean Martin would divulge information that would change the number of people who saw Dean Martin. Despite being a very attractive man and a great singer, his true face was rarely seen. Dean's family undoubtedly came first in his life. He has 7 biological children and 1 stepdaughter. Children from his 3 marriages. Dean Martin, his daughter, recently came forth with some riddles regarding her father's past, revealing some of the long-standing charges against her well-known father. In 1800, the renowned New York City Friars awarded Dean the title of Trobar. She was asked about her thoughts on the Me Too movement and how it would impact her father, who was also a member of the club, which is well known for its celebrity roasts that are attended by A-listers. The cool, collected man who captivated the crowd was actually her. The rules are as follows: get up early, get organized, go straight from school to home, finish all of your assignments, and make dinner every night. Deanna stated that her father was actually very strict in his family life and laughed when she mentioned that he was an Italian parent. And that's it. If you don't want to follow their rules, you can leave. When I told my dad I was 9, he would say, "Come on, rules are rules." It was never our intention to disappoint him, Dean said. According to Dean's interview with the Los Angeles Times in 2017, he would be home for supper every night after returning from work, and many people mistake his seclusion for his on-stage persona and humor because of his intense commitment with them. Despite what everyone believed, he was considerate when his mother would join him for a drink at the pub. Given that Dean Martin was the most convincing actor to portray Dean Martin, it would be inaccurate to refer to him as a. Dean was a traditionalist at heart, which set him apart from fellow Rat Pack members Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. Dean claimed to be someone else, a man who was basically a skirt chaser and womanizer, even if he was somewhat of a ladies' man. However, Desert Sun's interview with Patty Griot, Dean's backup singer and dancer in the 1970s and 1980s, revealed that this was untrue. He was simply a darling of a man named Dean Martin, who followed in her father's footsteps and became a successful singer. The actress and performer claims that her father did not drink excessively, saying that there is some truth to the recurring urban legend about Dean before he rose to fame. She also disclosed that her father had surgery on his nose and that he made sure the anonymous donor who. Martin said that the man on film wasn't actually her father and that everything she said was a lie. It is well known that Dean Martin smoked much, drank too much, and had an affair, but the Dean Martin show didn't always depict him favorably. On the Dean Martin show, her father was shown as a very sunburnt man who stumbled over his lines and was constantly holding an old drink. In addition, he never went back and fixed his errors by re-recording them, but was Dina's. The claim that everything was a performance is accurate, according to former Rat Pack member Joey Bishop, who added that the group's reputation as bad lads was a running joke that was consistent with what. According to Martin's daughter, despite having contracts with numerous other Hollywood celebrities, Dean never allowed his fame to overcome him. The carefree singer-songwriter was nearly unrecognizable, whether he was seeing the Queen or simply heading to the local butcher shop. A pivotal moment in Dean Martin's life occurred on March 21, 1967, when his son Dean Paul Martin Jr. passed away in an aircraft accident at the young age of 35. At the time, the younger Martin was serving as a captain in the Air National Guard. Did Dean begin to fade from view? Where did his son end up? When Guard's F-4C Phantom fighter plane vanished during a normal training flight over desert bombing fields, a 4-day search yielded no evidence of the missing airliner. Dean Martin's son's loss had a severe impact on him and altered the excitement he had experienced in. Dean Paul Martin Jr. was a young man with many talents who flew jet fighters, sang, played professional tennis, and was known as Dino during his lifetime. His more reserved manner and lack of charisma were evident in his public performances and appearances. Dino Paul Crosetti Jr. was born on November 17, 1951, to singer and actor Dean Martin. He is the sixth child of Martin and Martin, but he was the beloved child of his father during his adolescence. His death was tragic because Dean Martin was very close to all of his children. Little Martin, the firstborn of Martin and Jean Beeger Martin's second marriage, may have been called after his well-known father, but he was already keen to establish himself. Frank Sinatra was particularly devastated to learn of Dino's passing since he was 10 years old. Sinatra attempted to comfort Dean Martin by offering his help, but nothing he did could ease Martin's grief and loss. Deanna Martin remembered Sinatra's words to her father on the fateful day her brother's death occurred. Years earlier, he had also lost his mother in an aeroplane crash in the same area. When the plane vanished, Dean Martin was too depressed to accept Sinatra's offer of help. He sat there feeling hopeless, drank scotch, lit a cigarette from another, and gazed at the phone in the vain hope that his child would be. Dean Martin was emotionless enough to say nothing when his child was discovered alive. He sat down with a cigarette and scotch and hoped without hope that his child would be found alive on the other end of the phone. Without a doubt, Milan recommended that she be one of 2 psychics to help locate the missing plane. Examine aerial photos of the hilly region where the jet vanished. She went to the air base with Dean Jr.'s brother, REI, who had already determined the location with the strongest signals, so they boarded a rented helicopter and went there close to. When news broke over the radio that Dean Jr.'s body had been discovered in the small San Gorgonio Mountains, it was precisely where the psychic char had pointed. Tragically, the accident left Dean Martin crippled and never fully recovered, and his incapacity to deal with his son's passing gave the. In an interview with People magazine following his passing, Jerry Vale, Dino's friend, claimed that Dean Martin had become a shell of the person he once was. Although he attempted to continue performing and entertaining, he was. As a personal friend of both Sinatra and Dean Martin, columnist Jim Bacon reportedly noted that Frank really spills more booze than Dean consumes, proving that Dean Martin was never as passionate about it as he seemed to be during his appearances on The Carson Show. When Dean was at home, his family would always get together for supper. His habit of excessive drinking gave him a distinct personality and made his act seem real to his daughter Dina Dean, who simply perceived the entire drunken behavior as an act, whether it was for filming or engagements. Though Sinatra idolized him among the numerous singers, it was actually Dean, not Frank, who was the cool kid when Sinatra wanted to stay up and drink more. This made him seem more gregarious and created the idea that he was a lively man for his day. Would boldly tell him, "No, Frank, I'm going to bed." Dean opted not to go to the inauguration because he was friends with Sammy Davis, a prominent presidential candidate who was turned down for the invitation because of his white fiancée Mae Britt. The joke was simple and solidified Dean's image as vibrant, but following the untimely death of his son, the attractive pilot Michael Jr., Dean essentially became a recluse. Dean's drinking was all an act, a facade he developed, and it seemed suitable for the days of men's clubs and martinis. He became consumed by grief and no one now, not even his pals, regarded to forget him. The number of sightings reduced with time notwithstanding their reliance on cell phone communique. Sinatra and Dean stayed near and Sinatra never forgot his pal. Dean, the mythical singer, had his final reunion with Lewis on his 72nd birthday, and he ended his career with a Vegas live performance in 1991. Even though surgical procedure might have prolonged Dean's lifestyles, he declined to have it carried out after receiving his lung cancer diagnosis 12 months later. Dean Martin, who turned into 78 years vintage when he died on Christmas Day 1995, was born breathing failure turned into the remaining straw for the Rat Percent member who were diagnosed with lung-most cancers in 1993. Martin changed into regularly visible with a cigarette placing out of his mouth, and Playboy magazine known as him the good man who ever lived. The 8-year-old Father Martin had emphysema and lung-most cancers when the air sacs inside the lungs are broken. The circumstance is known as emphysema dyspnea. A chronic cough that is both continual and chesty and continual wheezing are all signs and symptoms of this situation that can affect respiration. Quite a few humans have been unhappy over the icon's death. A signal of that is the truth that in his honor the mild of the Las Vegas Strip had been dimmed. Disappointment washed over his close friend Frank Sinatra upon listening to the information. No longer by means of blood but by choice. Dean was my brother and he has been a continuous presence in Sinatra's life, just like the oxygen they breathe. In his very own words, Martin desired to be remembered as only a damn proper entertainer, not anything out of the regular, a gifted entertainer who delivered pleasure and laughter to the gang. He turned into a respectable guy and I'd like all of us to suppose that we loved him due to how well he did his job. An awful lot obliged. In your time earlier than you leave, hit that like button. Go away, remark and subscribe to our channel so that you by no means pass over a video. For further content from us, please click the video that appears subsequent in your display.